Sometimes there's so much that happens in a week, I try to go through what we need to talk about and what we need to discuss, because as preppers, as homesteaders, as someone who wants to live sustainable, we need to know what's going on so we can build wisdom and how to formulate what our best plan is for our family. Our goal is always to bring you information that is pertinent to you. There's some things that you hear on the news, but then there's some things that we miss. Why don't we dive a little deeper in some of these situations? Now, my goal is to always tell you the stories, but ultimately I want you to do your own research. Today we're going to jump into two things that are unbelievable. I would say majority of Americans know and they're pushing against, and still our leadership is letting us down. Let's jump into these stories today. This video is going to be good and it starts right now. Standing underneath the lights, look into each other's eyes. Hey guys, welcome to the Max. Thank you so much for being here today. A lot of times people want to know where we're at on our farm. So this is the milking station. This is where I milk cows every morning. If you hear in the background the last few videos, there's been a lot of loud equipment, maybe a beeping here and there. What we're doing is, because we're so dry and we still have not had rain, we're actually doing a little work to dig out part of our dam. We have a leak on our dam. So if you hear that noise in a lot of our videos, what it is there's a guy trying to dig out some of our dam so we won't lose our pond. Our pond is about 40 years old, so we want to conserve it and make sure it is in the best shape possible, because that is a big source of fish and food for us, and we also utilize the water. So it's always one of those good things to take care of it, and when we had dry weather, it was a great opportunity. So excuse that sound. Now let's jump into today's video. If you're new to the channel, go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell, give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, but let us know what you think about this content. Today's video is about two things, and it's not the fact of, well, we don't know about these. You know about these, you hear about them every day. The problem is no one is doing anything about it. We hear some conservatives pushing against it, but if we don't see a change, I don't think for most Americans it's going to get any better. So first, migrant crisis, and then we'll talk a little bit about Ukraine and the funding that we keep pouring to it. So let's jump into the migrant crisis. There's a study across all news, but this one was from Breitbart, and it said, Biden grants quasi-amnesty for 470,000 more Venezuelan migrants. President Joe Biden's border chief said providing amnesty and working permits for 470,000 more Venezuelan illegal migrants who are now crowding New York and other cities, meaning they're trying to make sure they have some kind of citizenship and amnesty and green cards to be able to work and provide. Now the problem with that is this. Now, do I believe those people need to work? Absolutely, everyone needs jobs, but they need to come here legally and lawfully. If someone comes illegal and unlawful, why is it fair that we now have to stick our necks out for those individuals? Now, we're not talking about just Mexicans. We're not talking about just Spanish people coming up from the main border. We're talking about people from Haiti, people from Venezuela, people from Cuba, people from all over South America. Not only that, did you know there was more Chinese nationalists detained at our border than any other time in our history? So do we honestly believe that Middle Eastern people and Chinese people and all these other countries who may not have the best relationship with America is flooding our southern border, and in the name of, well, everybody else is doing it? Do you think that could actually come back to harm us? Back to the story at hand when it comes to the jobs. We're already struggling in our economy. We're already struggling with money in our economy. There was a story that said that it was like $40 million was spent on housing a big chunk of illegal immigrants in New York City. Now, one thing I do like, I like that even the liberal leftists from New York is starting to push back, and they're saying, wait, we can't, we were a sanctuary city, but this is a little too much. Now you're getting what you taste and see, and you are now feeling what you've been pushing so hard for, kind of like the Martha's Vineyard thing. Here you have Texas and these border states that are flooded and no one wants to care. Eagle Pass just declared a state of emergency, an invasion, because we are seeing massive amount of people come across the border. Now, this is not just for, well, we have people, we need jobs in the economy. It's trafficking people, it's drugs, it's the whole way of life that America has tried so hard to make sure our children are safe, make sure our families are not involved in dependency with some kind of pharmaceuticals or some kind of drugs. We are now bringing a lot of that over because our border is open. Did you know there's times where the federal government just came in and cut the fence, allowed people to cross in? What is the main agenda and goal for that? Well, they believe that if they can all of a sudden get amnesty because it's all crazy, they can get legal citizenship. They know that's going to be a voting block for the Democrats for a long time, which is going to secure their wins across the board. And we talked about how the dangers of policemen and kind of people getting out of law enforcement. Well, there's a study that said that the consequences of big cities are making the policies where big cities cannot find policing. So if we see massive loads of thousands upon thousands upon thousands moving into the city, government is giving them work permits, but they're living in tent cities. They've busted some for drugs and trafficking already. Go back and look in major cities. They've busted tent cities from illegal immigrants, causing major issues for trafficking and drugs. If there's no policing and enforcing, they're already in shortage. We see thousands of extra people going into these cities that are not actually law-abiding citizens. Remember, they're pushing that these are kids and women. Most of them are majority men. And not only that, if you are unlawfully coming into a country, do you honestly believe those people have the best morals and values to provide good citizenship for America? They didn't do it right, and all of a sudden the government is trying to give them something instead of them actually going through the steps of true citizenship. Our economy's doing bad, and 500,000 people government offers work permits, offers work, offers opportunity. They're not even doing that for their own people. People are struggling paycheck to paycheck. 70% of people are struggling paycheck to paycheck, and the government gives 500,000 people ways to work in America. That is unbelievable. And you know, here's the thing. Democrats definitely are embracing it. I love the fact that these liberal states and some of the people are saying, you know, wait, this is too much. I hope it keeps on happening so they see the severity of these policies of the Biden administration and a lot of these other leftist areas. We need to close the border. The state of Texas has done some things, but they have not pushed hard enough. If they're wanting to protect their people, they need to lock down the border. He controls a lot of his state National Guard that's located here in Texas. Let's go ahead and get that closed up. Let's go ahead and do more fencing of some sort. It doesn't matter if the government steps against you. It's time to stand up as a state, and you know what, and have a backbone. You don't see enough people doing that. So now you have Democrat and Republicans on the border of Texas saying, you know what, we've got to do something about this. Here's your prime opportunity, Abbott and some of these other leaders that have border towns and border states. Let's start growing backbone and putting people to actually enforce the law back for America. So wrapping up border problems, more people flooding the border, more drugs and trafficking happening, unlawful breach of our border, and it compromises our national security. Solutions: actually stand up and do something about it when it comes to the states on the border. Now, they can't do it alone, so therefore Republican governors who believe like they do, they should be sending a lot of their troops to secure the border, because it affects all our states. Even in Mississippi, we're not even really close to the border, but we see the effects of what some of the drugs that come across the border, some of the damage it causes families. We have to get a hold on that because it is a national security. So I would say the solution is we've got to see more backbone in our politicians and our leadership to send more troops to enforce, not to stand there and let them in. If we see National Guard and they don't do nothing but just let more people in, if we have Border Patrol there and they're not doing anything to stop it, then they're not serving any purpose. We're wasting our resources. So we actually have to go down there and say, you know what, we're going to secure it no matter what the national government says. The state government stands firm to guard their borders. That's the good thing. It is a national border, but it also is a state border, and I believe the state needs to stand up and say, you know what, I'm going to protect my people. And it also takes more people in these cities, these leftist cities, to wake up and say, you know what, they're taking our jobs. These people, if they were here legally and they're here for refuge, we want to help them. But if they're unlawfully just coming across the Texas border, and it's not just, again, the Mexican culture and Mexican people trying to get away from cartels, it's people from all over the world because they know that's the point of entry. We actually need more Democrats and liberals to stand up and say, you know what, this is too much. We've got to do something about it. There's a story in New York where there was a lot of New Yorkers that were not allowing migrant buses to even pass. We need to see more of that, because we start seeing that animus, we start seeing that that I'm tired of this situation, then you're going to start seeing the government have to step in, because if not, you're going to see anarchy in the streets and more chaos. So I'm hoping that we see more people stand up and say, you know what, we can't have this. Our economy is already in shambles, and we can't just keep allowing 500,000 people to come in. Studies show that there's been 8 million people, at least 8 million people come across the southern border into America. You think that's good for the economy? All right, second story. $100 billion we've already sent to Ukraine. We have situations where that's not really probably counting all the extra military benefits such as stuff that we're sending over there to other countries to then supply Ukraine. I love the fact that you're starting to see some conservatives and some libertarians say this is enough. I love to see that Rand Paul is standing up saying this is enough. I love seeing the Freedom Caucus say this is enough. However, the question is, you cannot bend over. Once you stand on that pedestal and say, you know what, I'm done supporting this. I'm done sending our hard-earned tax dollars to a country that doesn't really go along with our views, and that we're the only ones really funding the majority of this situation in Ukraine. We can't just keep fighting a proxy war, because now we're seeing more nuclear power go into Russia, more relationships with North Korea and China, and it puts us in a very precarious spot, all because we're the ones doing this. We could stop it. If we just cut the checkbook off to Ukraine, we could get both of them to the table, and then we can build a better treaty, a better agreement on the situation. But you know what? Milley doubled down this week. He said, we are in Ukraine and we're there to help indefinitely. Now remember, people, the leadership, the representatives from a conservative party is saying we're not going to do it. You have the American people in majority, over 50%, saying we don't want to keep putting our money in Ukraine. However, $325 million more that the Biden administration sent just this week to Ukraine for assistance when Zelensky come. Did you vote for that? No. See, that's what people don't realize. The president, a lot of times when it comes to our government and our American society, a lot of times we dog Trump out, or we dog some of these presidents out. They don't have as much I guess, power when it comes to America, because of the way we're set up with the balance of power. However, they have a huge impact when it comes to the world in making policy and funding and finances. And so that's what you're seeing most of. The American people's against this. However, Biden is still flowing money all to Ukraine. Billions and millions, multi-millions. Is that really what we want as Americans? No one's actually doing anything about it. I love the fact that McCarthy is getting pressed a little bit and he's not allowing a joint session of Congress. I'm glad that he's not allowing Zelensky to speak. I think if Matt Gaetz and some of those Freedom Caucus people keep putting McCarthy's feet to the fire, he becomes a little bit more conservative, a little bit more populist. Now, I don't think McCarthy is one of us by any means. I think he's a rhino, but he loves power. And one good thing is the Freedom Caucus is strong enough. If they will hold to their backbone and hold to their plans, if they hold his feet to the fire, guess what? He will listen to them a little bit, because he knows they could run him out of power, basically, or at least cause a lot of strife for him. So I love the fact that he's not allowing Zelensky to speak. But the question is, what is his thoughts on it? He may be a Trump supporter, or he may not. He talks like he is. He may be a populist here and there, but he may not. I think he's just playing to both sides because he likes the power. But what I would love to see him do is say, you know what, we're done funding. The Congress is the reason people can get the money sent, appropriate the money, even to the military. Cut the funding. Truly, if you believe in what the American people want you to represent, cut the funding. You have a Republican Congress that is a majority, not by much, I understand, but cut the funding to Ukraine. There should be no reason that we are pouring our money, when we're already so broke as a nation, pouring hundreds of millions and billions of dollars to Ukraine. Wouldn't you love to know? Wouldn't you honestly love to know? Would you love to have a true inspector general over there to see where that money went? Do you honestly believe all that money's staying over there, or do you think it's going to the oligarchs, or actually back in the pockets of lobbyists or port projects here, or flowing back to our politicians? I would actually love to know. All the people that vote yes, and people like the Lindsey Grahams on the Republican side, the Mitch McConnells, I would love to see, really, are they benefiting from these big, military contracts, these Ukrainian big billions pushed over there? Because there's no one in their right mind thinking our nation's good shape financially and we just need to keep pouring money over there. Same way with the immigrant crisis. We're allowing people to come over here and we're giving all the incentives to stay. $29 million we've invested in like this tent city in Chicago. Chicago can't even keep Walmarts there and Kmart's there, and people are thieving and theft and crime. But then we want to give another $29 million to house more immigrants there to cause more issues for Chicago. But remember, what does chaos, collapse, calamity bring? It brings more government regulation, because it allows them to quote unquote have an emergency. So is it all a plan? Is all this Ukrainian money going because they needed emergency to start another Afghanistan? Is the immigrant crisis going to cause more chaos in the cities where they have to have more military into the cities and they have to cause martial law? Something to think about, isn't it? You work so hard to work hard to work full-time jobs, overtime money, to have 70% of Americans work paycheck to paycheck. All the while they're sending hundreds of billions of dollars to a country that you probably didn't even know or existed on a map other than just a few years ago. And now you're housing tons of people who are unlawfully breaking the law to live in your country. Isn't that amazing? If you go out there and you go on a 55 and you say, you know what, I'm gonna go 85 in this 55, they're gonna write you a ticket. You don't get out of it. You broke the law like they broke the law, the immigrants. However, you don't go out, you don't get out of it. You have to pay it. It goes on your record, boom. So as an American citizen, you have to abide by the laws. But these illegal immigrants that they're wanting amnesty for and citizenship for, they do what they want. The cities can do what they want. Our government, even though the people are saying we don't want the money sent to Ukraine because we don't have it, Biden can do what he wants. We've got to start having backbone, and we got to elect people that have backbone. As a prepper, as someone who wants to live sustainable, the only thing you can do is try to get out of debt, try to build up as much money as you can. Look at the things we talked about when we start buying things and what we try to do to hold value, because we're destroying our own dollar. And if we don't start developing a way to have assets, the way to have tangible goods, foods, waters, gold, precious metals, brass, self-defense tools, if we start building some kind of supply here in a prepper's way, then we're going to be the same way. We're going to be holding our hand out waiting for the government to fill it. And that will put you in a very precarious situation. Guys, let me know what you think about this video. These two things are bothering a lot of people. They're literally on the news every day. People are speaking against it every day. All the while, your federal government and your state governments are not doing anything about it. They like to talk, but no action. Guys, let me know what you think. If you agree with this, disagree with this. Until the next one, God bless.
There's no one left but you and me. It's like a made-up place that only we can see.